Hi everyone, I'm Alex.
And I'm Sean.
And we're the Homeward Bound group, and we work with Advisors Living Real Estate out of their Andover, Massachusetts office.
And today we're going to be talking about
roofs. This is another video from our series on home inspection issues. And today we're going to be talking about roofs and what can come up during the home inspection. So what can come up during the home inspection as far as roofs are concerned?
So the great thing about a roof is it is exposed and everyone can see it 99% of the time. So even before we do the home inspection, we can walk in, look at a house, and we can tell this looks like a new roof, this looks like a really, really old roof. If we've got what looks like a very old roof, don't be surprised when we have the home inspection, when the home inspector crawls up into the rafters, starts moving around inside there, and he says, I've got rusty nails, or I've got water damage on the rafters, or water staining, or I've got, wet spots up in the attic, or I can see that I've got leaking into the insulation. It hasn't hit the ceilings yet, but it's coming. So when you're buying a house, the two most important things are your foundation and your roof, because the foundation holds you in place, and then the roof keeps everything off that's coming in. One of the first things you want to do is, from the outside, you want to look at the roof, and if it's a 3-tab roof, which you're just going to...
What does that mean?
Basically, I'm going to tell you to go to Google and look it up, but the 3-tab roof is sort of these old asphalt shingled roofs, and they're kind of designed to look a little bit like the old slate roofs. They're uniformed checkerboard tabs. They stick out like a sore thumb. You can see them and you know what they are. The first thing you want to do when you look at those is you want to see what's the gapping look like between each little tab. And the bigger that gap gets, the older it is, because the older it is, the more moisture the sun has pulled out of it, and it starts to warp and pull aside. And as it does that, it creates more gaps and water can get in. The other thing you want to look for is, when you just look at the roof, can you see the tar, or do you just see the stone that has been mixed in with the tar? Because the older it gets, that stone starts to come off and it just exposes the tar. Most of those 3-tab roofs, they're good for anywhere from 20 to 30 years. So if you're looking at a house and the seller's disclosure says it's a 30-year roof and it's a 3-tab, you know it's pretty much at the end of its expected life expectancy. It's nearly done. So you should at least factor into the fact that you're probably going to be doing a roof within the next 1 to 5 years. The longer you wait, the more you increase the odds of it leaking. So when you purchase that house and you have the home inspection, that home inspector is going to climb up into the rafters and he's going to start looking around, and he's going to be looking for a few things. He's going to be looking to see, is there any staining on the wood? He's going to look to see if the nails that are holding the roof in place, are they rusting? They're only going to rust if water's getting through, so that means that that roof has already started to fail. Water has gotten through and the nails are rusting. And the other thing he's going to look for is he's going to look to see, is there any gaps in the rafters? The roof isn't just your shingles, it's also the structure that it's on. Older homes built in the 1900s to 1930s, you're going to see a lot of lats or slats. So like you're going to have planks of wood going back and forth, and then the roof attaches onto that. If there's any cracks or missing pieces, he's going to point that out. So sure, you might have a good looking roof on the outside, it might have a real nice architectural shingle, but what it's attached to could be garbage. So having that home inspector up there and looking at that is key. The other thing that they're going to look at, if they have access to it, is how many layers of roof are on there. Typically, most people are going to say you can do 1 layer on top of an existing roof. You don't have to strip it. Once you have 2 layers on there and you go to put a 3rd on, in most cases you're adding way too much weight for what that roof can handle, so you're supposed to strip it off. I've come across a few roofs where there's 4 layers of roof on there, and that, in New England, adding snow, the immense amount of weight that's on there. The bigger problem is, a lot of times you're also going to see is the nails for roofing nails are not that long. So if you've got 2 or 3 layers on there, that nail might not even be actually going into the wood. It's just going into the tar papers above it. It's a few red flags to look for. So a good home inspector, he's going to go up with a ladder. He can't legally go up on the roof, but he's going to get as close to it as he can, and he's going to get a look at it and see how many layers are on there.
What types of roofs have the best life expectancy?
So slate lasts forever. It's stone, but it has continuous maintenance. So every year or 2, you might have a bad storm, or you might lose a piece, it might fall off. Basically, the piece of slate falls off, it hits the ground. As long as it doesn't break, you're going to have someone come and replace it and put it back in place. But that roof will last as long as the house is standing.
And that's probably not very expensive to repair it from time to time.
I have a client with a slate roof, and she says every 2 to 3 years she spends about $300 to $500 just on general maintenance. So it's a chunk, but it's not a break your back kind of chunk.
Yeah, but then for 100 years you don't have to replace it. So
exactly.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, just a little bit of maintenance. The next most durable would be metal roof. So a metal roof, if it's installed properly and it's coated and it's, it's either galvanized or powder coated paint on it and it's got the seals and the caulking on it the way it's supposed to be, that roof should last well over 50 years. You're probably talking more like a 75-year roof.
Do you see a lot of those in New England?
The further north you go, the more of them you see.
Okay.
Now there's a downside to the metal roof. It has an incredibly long life expectancy. It is very durable, especially to harsh weather. But when it rains, it sounds like someone's got a drum and they're pouring raindrops on it. It can get very loud inside the house, so you have to make sure the level of insulation between the roof and the house is significant enough to reduce that noise.
Okay.
And then we're going to move into the traditional, at least here in New England, you're going to see a lot of the asphalt shingles, and there's two kinds. As I mentioned, there's the 3-tab, and then there's something that's called architectural. The architectural is that one where it looks like there's these rough pilings of roof shingles on top. It almost looks like someone spilled roof shingles on in an organized pattern. It's basically thicker than the 3-tab, so it lasts a little bit longer. The thicker the roof is, the longer it lasts, and of course, obviously, the better the material they use, the longer it lasts. The 3-tabs, like I said, they're 20-year, maybe a 30-year roof. The architecturals, I think they're starting around a 30-year, and a lot of them have lifetime warranty, so they're saying it's going to last significantly more than 50 years. It'll last longer than you are going to live in the house, and maybe your kids will live in the house, but then it'll have to get replaced.
Okay.
And then what we don't see around here, but you see down south, is you see those terracotta roofs, I think is what they're called.
Oh, okay.
I might be wrong. I don't deal with them, but I believe it's called a terracotta roof. They are very popular down south. They're very easy to work on. It's very easy to replace the parts on it. If a storm breaks a piece, they just swap out a piece almost like the slate, except it's a lot easier to get the materials for it.
How durable are they? Like how long is the life expectancy on those?
I know it depends where you are to determine the life expectancy because of the weather. I know if you look down in Florida, they want to see, the insurance companies want those roofs replaced after like 10 or 15 years.
Oh, wow. That's pretty fast.
It doesn't mean the roof's going to leak. It just means the insurance company doesn't trust it. Doesn't mean that roof might last 40 years. It's just the insurance company insuring the house on it. They seem to be looking for newer roofs that are more durable. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the amount of rain and the high winds that they receive down there could be damaging the roof. And then for my Irish friends out there, we have what's called a thatched roof. And that's just taking bales of hay and locking them together and just dropping them on top.
Is that popular in the Irish countryside?
Nope, because they are a fire hazard.
Did they used to do that?
There were an immense amount of thatched roofs. If you go back, say, 100 years, it was pretty much outside of town, it was all thatched roofs.
Yeah.
Now you see them on some historical homes. There are a few people who are still building with them, but I don't know how easy it is to insure a house with a thatched roof.
I
don't know what the maintenance involved in it.
That.
But if you're doing an Airbnb with a thatched roof in Ireland, I'm sure you're crushing it.
Yeah. You're probably paying a lot for insurance, but you're crushing it at least on the rental.
Yep, us Yanks, we love staying in a house with a thatched roof.
All right.
So I think that covers the roofs.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it, I think.
And more importantly, don't just trust me, your realtor, when we look at a house. Honestly, get a home inspection, have them crawl up into the rafters. I'm looking at the house with you for 15, 20 minutes. That guy's going to be up there for 2 to 3 hours looking at that house. He's going to take a fine-tooth comb and go through it. Yeah, he'll find things I don't find. If I find something glaring, we just walk away and move on to the next house. But still, don't consider me a home inspector. Don't consider a real estate agent, a designer, or a mechanic,
or anything other than a real estate agent.
We're the guy who opens the doors.
Yeah, I mean, you have construction experience, so that helps. But
it's a cheat,
most realtors don't. So
we all bring something to the table.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it.
All right, have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.